Let's go. Welcome back, everyone. We are in God mode. We have all these AIs, and it's a Genesis kind of situation. We speak words, and they build it. It's powerful. But do we have also godlike clarity? Do we have a crystal clear understanding of our purpose, our mission, what we are here to do, who we really are, and what we are here to do, who we are here to serve? That's why I invited Nino Fincher, who is the person to talk to about this. She does this with executives in a short time. Because if we don't have that clarity, now all these possibilities become maybe just a huge distraction and a dissipation of our energy. So, welcome, Nino.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit. What are you currently creating?
Well, I made public the fact that I'm writing the second book. So now I have a community of people keeping me accountable. So that is sort of an overarching engagement that I have, and I'm planning to have it completed by September.
What was the first
Hopefully.
book for people who don't know you?
The first book was on it was written for children on how to manage day-to-day mental well-being, how to make choices that can keep you happy and not stuck in the state of sadness or despair, and how to make choices that actually promote health and mental engagement that leads you to movement and to success. And it was written for some of the kids that we met when we lived in the United Arab Emirates, who knew my puppy there and really, really miss him. And so every time I would return, they would ask me how my puppy was before they ever asked how I was. And so I decided to write it from his point of view so that these children who were asking about him could have a book with his pictures to look at and just kind of get something useful out of it as well. It's called Kuba Says Hi.
So sweet. And what made you start the second book?
The second book uh, started because I wanted to leave something for my kids that would be a reference to them to quickly go back to the steps that completely reset you um, to make progress and not feel stuck. And it also combines the principles of the coaching program that I use, that works with the executives, that works with the veterans who struggle with PTSD, that has helped every client I've ever had. And so I just wanted to make it more of a reference point rather than a story. For somebody who say, okay, I feel stuck here, what do I do? Here's the step one, here's step two, just go and repeat. And I want it to be uh, easily accessible, easily transferable, and just really useful for people.
I'm thinking about the puppy. What is it about puppies that I think it was Donald Winnicott, the child psychologist, who said some objects are liminal objects, transitional objects. They create in between spaces between here and there. There is an in
Yes,
between space. A blanket can be such a space. You can
yes,
bring your blanket with you. A dog can
yes,
be such a space, right?
yes. I think it's a comforting factor. I think change, again, like the book I'm writing is about being stuck. And I think people oftentimes feel stuck because they're afraid of transition,
Mm-hmm.
because transition always references lack of familiarity. Most people don't like change. And the comfort that a blanket will give you, or a comfort that a dog will give you, who is consistently the same, they repeat, they like patterns, they are always happy, they forgive very quickly. There's just that comfort and ease of sameness that people need when things feel challenging or difficult.
Do people dislike change? Because if that's the case, then we have a problem, folks, because the world is spinning faster and faster and faster. I think the eye acceleration is fast right now, but it is the slowest that it will be in the next 10 years. So
Yes.
if we don't like change, we have a problem. Let's stay there.
Yeah. Right.
Why do people dislike change?
Because change often is associated and interpreted as lack of safety. Your mind thrives on what's familiar, and its singular purpose that it was designed and given to us for is to keep you safe. And so anything that a mind interprets as being unsafe, it will always guard you against. And change, change is the definition of I don't know what's on the other side with complete certainty.
I love safety and I need a ton of safety. I mean, I have a blanket here with me. So
Yes.
I like safety,
Yes.
but I never expect safety in a static situation. So I don't have a job, I'm self employed.
Yes.
I would not feel safe if I was employed by a large, healthy corporation because that it's not in my control. They can fire me in a second.
True.
So, what is actually safe
Right.
in a world that's dynamic?
Yes. Well, two things I'd like to address that question with. Number one, because we attach meaning to everything, it is important. That's why it's important for you to understand how the mind operates and actually consciously communicate to your mind like you would to a toddler, or how you would direct a horse that may be afraid of moving somewhere, to explain to them why this is important or why this is okay or why this is relevant. And so that constant dialogue with your mind is essential. And in order for that to happen, you have to be in an aware state, like in a conscious state, not default to subconscious, which most of the people operate in that. Number one. And number two, I think because everything feels so transient, there has to be a clarity of purpose and a foundation that is solid and unchanging and has that quality um, of security or safeness that you understand that you can base everything on and build structures off of, rather than constantly removing and putting new foundation in. And I think that's what the transcendent has to do with.
Now, most coaches and therapists like you, they live in one place and they stay there. You like to move between Dallas and Dubai. What is it about that dynamic, that tension that you like?
We lived in UAE for 15 years. And so our family are very thankful to have had our kids be raised there, to have made amazing friends and connections there. And so I feel like a large portion of my time and of my life really, belongs and is connected to that country. And over time, I'm very grateful to have developed relationships and built clientele who understand the importance of what I have to offer. And so um, going back after we've returned to the United States has been kind of a non-brainer. I go back to visit my friends and I go back to see my clients. Sometimes I speak there publicly. And so that's kind of the relationship that we've maintained.
And you don't like the word mindset. You prefer mind flow. Why?
I think so. I think um, words are very powerful. They create images. And when I think of the mind, I understand that it's almost like a flock of birds. Like you've seen the large flock of birds that kind of move together, and they um, they're very dynamic, and they expand and they contract, and so they're not just sitting there. And I think the mind and the way it operates reflects that very well. And so when I think of mindset, I think of it in a stuck state. Now, you can have it positioned always on something fantastic, but I think mind flowed kind of creates that image in your perception of giving your mind freedom to choose, to change, to decide, to expand, to pivot. And so that's why I like to use that word more.
Mhm. You have a specific way of working. You say you can solve big mind flow problem in 3 sessions. Most therapists would say that's impossible. I need months, years. Do you solve a different problem than they solve? How do you do it?
Um, Therapy is very helpful and useful, and I did cognitive behavioral therapy after I graduated um, for for several years under the supervision of some phenomenal therapists in the field who worked in family systems or marriage and family therapy. Again, it works and it's great. And some people really benefit from having that consistent check in week after week after week. However, if you're trying to address a specific problem or specific issue, for example, if anxiety is paralyzing you, um, yes, there is a discipline, and yes, there needs to be a consistency. But if you are unable to quickly identify the root of what causes that behavior, or the root of why somebody continues to go back to alcohol, or the root of why somebody struggles with unforgiveness, it becomes a very long and arduous process, which again doesn't mean that it won't be fixed at some point, but it just takes a lot longer. And so what the work that I do allows me to do is to leverage 3 different modalities that help me bypass a lot of the what I call clutter that needs to be addressed maybe down the road, but is not relevant to what that person is trying to solve when it comes to that one specific issue. And it allows me to bypass and go right to the root of that. And once you identify the root, then transforming the mind by leveraging the neuroplasticity of the brain is not as complicated as people may think.
Who are your favorite clients? What makes them a favorite client?
What makes my favorite client is somebody who commits, who says, I have chosen and made a decision that this is going to be my commitment and priority. There are a lot of people who um, sort of dabble. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they think, okay, I'll try this, but then also this sounds good, and maybe I'll try that, or maybe I'll do this later. It's uh, That's not helpful for any change anyway. But people who um, are unwilling to decide that everything else is non-negotiable, I'd rather not work with.
Can it be? I'm coaching now since 23 years. And one question in my mind is, can it be that 90% of the transformation happens just in the agreement within myself, and that agreement and then commitment to do
Yes.
something? Then the rest kind of happens.
I don't think it just kind of happens. There's a byproduct of everything, right? Anything you do or decide has some kind of an outcome, even if you don't try. So yes, absolutely. Um, but what decision to commit to something really does is it eliminates all of the other variables and options. So if I decide that I want to learn a language, uh, I can't, I can still learn a language over time if I kind of expose myself, sort of, kind of, occasionally, I'll pick up a word here and I'll pick up a sentence there. But if that is what I'm choosing to do because I have a reason and a purpose that I have decided to pursue for it, then me eliminating all of the other options when it comes to learning language is essential. Like I will eliminate, um, you know, for instance, me sleeping in for another half an hour versus getting up and really sitting down and doing maybe 15 or 20 minutes or an hour of language study. You know, I will eliminate listening to that podcast, you know, versus me taking the time to practice the verbs or the numbers or something. And so, but that commitment has to precede whatever it is that you're choosing to do. And decision is critical, because decision literally means to cut off everything else.
Yes, and then it becomes your lens for the next days. When you read a magazine, you will find that specific language popping up. When you walk down the street, you will find that person from that country and start a conversation.
Yes.
Your friends will talk more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
ma-
because your mind, it automatically directs you to whatever it understands as a priority for you. You know, so that's part of why the dialogue with your mind is essential, because your mind will choose what it thinks is important unless you make it clear.
and I think this is where listeners right now really need your help, because we have now AI where you just speak it and it happens. So now the question is, wow, what should I eliminate? What is actually
Mm,
worth my attention, my service, my commitment?
yes.
And
And great question. And we can get overwhelmed by so much, absolutely. And especially, like you said, in this day and age when, you know, there's a legion of things that just bombard you. And, you know, algorithm will decide, hey, this is important for you because this is the question you wrote.
mhm,
So that's why part of what I do, besides rapid therapy, is helping people get super clear on their purpose. And purpose is essential. The Bosches talk about purpose as being the best of what you have to gift others.
mm,
And the way I define it is an intersection of three things. The purpose is an intersection um, of your passion, skills, and service. So if any one of those three things is not in the picture, you are spinning the wheels.
mhm.
And and so helping people understand what those are, again, very quickly, I kind of like rapid things. So understand what those things are is one of the most fulfilling things for me to do, because now people can aim at something and, like you said, eliminate all the other things a lot more clearly and easily, you know, understanding what they're designed for and what they're made for.
Passion, skill, and service. Is there a specific order, or do you work on all three at once?
um, Different people come you know, are more clear on one of those three things, or maybe two of the three things. I think passion comes from different comes in different ways. Some people are very passionate about something from a very early age, you know, and then they build the skill set later on. um, Others, sometimes I use passion interchangeably with pain.
Mm,
So a lot of the times, I think your passion or desire to do something arises out of the painful experience that you walk through. And so for people like that, it may become central at a certain time when they have walked through something that has been very challenging. But generally speaking, I believe in Christ, and I think God designs us with a very unique individual um, affinity and very unique individual um, capacity to gift people with something in a very unique way. And so oftentimes the passion that arises later on, or the pain that people sort of that gets people's attention later on, becomes um, converges with what they were originally designed for, and what they may go back and uncover they really always leaned towards when they were little, if that makes sense.
It does. So
Mm-hmm.
my pain as a kid was that my parents divorced when I was three years old. And my mission in life is to bring people together. So that's my
You see?
passion. That's what I'm here to do. I build
Right.
communities.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? So people typically react in three different ways. They either um, reject whatever creates that pain point altogether. They either replicate it or they expand on it and use it as a transformation. And I think that's what uniquely is your feature, and you've leveraged that, and instead of wallowing in that or making that your victim kind of a reference point, you transformed it to gift it to somebody else, and it's beautiful.
So if somebody's listening and they go, I don't have a passion. Well, look at the other side, right? What do you hate? What
Yeah,
really frustrates you?
yeah, that's a very good place to start, because what you dislike or what you don't want to participate in can be very informative as well. Yeah.
Skills. How do you define skills? Is it what comes easy, what comes naturally, what you do better than others?
Yes, I think both. And I think what comes naturally, what you again have affinity for, but also a skill set that you've built over time. Because once you identify the skills that you have collected, like, if you look at my life, I've done so many seemingly random things at different times that if you were to look at any of them in isolation, you go, why are we doing this? Where are we going with this? you know but all of them, it kind of converge and become sort of a puzzle piece that at some point, once you're clear on who you are to help, becomes that tapestry that allows you to kind of create a welcome mat, so to speak, if we continue with the metaphor. But yeah, skills include what you're naturally gifted to do, what comes easy to you, but also what you've gained over time, what you've learned over time, what you have acquired in your life.
And service is who you are here to serve.
Yes. And service is essential because, you can want to be passionate about learning to play guitar, for instance, and it's fantastic and you can enjoy it. But at some point, you would want to play with somebody or play for somebody, or let somebody hear, or you just encourage somebody with a song. So unless you have that third component, you're really not locked in to your purpose, in my opinion.
You said you believe in Christ. I have a question as a Catholic. I have a question.
Mm,
Isn't Christianity a very relationship based, service based religion? Because in the beginning was the word. So the
yes,
word, there's somebody who speaks, somebody who listens. Because you don't tell to the void, right? You tell somebody.
of course.
And so it starts with a relationship, actually.
Yes, I think so too. I think that is what makes Christianity uniquely different from any other faith. I think that we love God because he first loved us.
Yes.
And even before that, when people struggle with the concept of the Trinity, um, I think it's obviously we can't understand it with our human perception because we're so limited with material in a material world. However, like you said, because God spoke the word, and that relational aspect of what makes Christianity so unique can only be also understood within the structure of the Godhead, or the structure of that unique Trinitarian relationship within who God is as a person, as an essence. And I think religion, the difference I think between religion and a relationship with God is that religion is a set of rituals and structures and attempts for us to gain access to the deity. I think relationship is a complete reverse of that. I think God himself came and uniquely knows you. I mean, the Bible says the numbers, the hairs on your head are numbered, and God knows you by name. That's a relationship. God allowing you to call him his father, once you know him, it's a unique relationship that's unlike any other one. He doesn't call us his slaves. He doesn't call us his servants. Only he allows us to call him the Father. That's beautiful.
And it's the relationship between son and father, and between son and spirit, father and
Yeah.
spirit. It's all
Mhm.
relation.
Yes. Yeah. So that Trinity, uh, everything that we want and everything we long for it just replicates the more profound and deeper concept that's already there. We want peace because our God is the God of peace. We want order because God is the God of order. We want love because God is the God of love. Now people may dismiss him and not believe in that, but the truth still is that those are the things that people long for and aim for. We want relationships. We want, um, peace. We want joy. We want all of those concepts that God himself is the source of, whether or not we, reject him or trust him.
Sometimes I have 3 kids. Sometimes they say, "Papa, I hate you," and I say, "Yeah, don't worry, I still love you." I say, "Yeah, but
Yeah.
now I don't believe you." Don't worry, Jesus still loves you. And then they go,
Yeah.
"Okay, yeah, I trust that."
Yes. That's true. That's true. I mean, just because your kid does something stupid or it doesn't break your relationship, it may need repairing and help them understand why this is unacceptable, or why they need to correct themselves, or why you need to correct yourself. But the relationship remains. Nothing can change the fact that you're the father and they're the kids.
So how far are you now with the second book, and what's next?
um my aim is probably 10 chapters. It kind of comes and goes, I think, but that's sort of what I have decided, and I'm on the fourth now.
4 of 10, nice.
Yeah.
And do you have already a plan of how you will promote the book this time?
I haven't really decided yet. I think your podcasts have been a fantastic way to communicate the message. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so if anybody, by the way, from your audience is interested in speaking with me, that's the easiest way to contact me, either that or through my website. But I'm looking to do that. I also speak quite a bit publicly, and that becomes another avenue as well.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. People
Mm.
listening, guys, it's Nino Fincher. Connect with her on LinkedIn. And who should, uh, when they speak to you on LinkedIn, who should actually apply to work with you and who should not?
Again, if of oftentimes that people come to me are people who have tried other things and are really tired of dealing with the same issue. My primary audience, believe it or not, are men. I work with women as well, but I work with mainly men. A lot of people who struggle with anxiety, people who struggle with symptoms of depression, people who struggle with um, not being able to sleep properly, or struggle with insomnia in other ways, people who feel stuck in some way and kind of can't find the motivation, or don't know how to identify what's central and important for them in this particular time in their life. Anybody who feels stuck in some way and has tried other things and thinks that change isn't possible, I enjoy working with them, as long as they have committed and decided that this will become non-negotiable.
And I am not surprised that it's mainly men who need you,
Mm.
because I think we are at this stage in society where there is this backlash, right? That men are supposed to be strong and providing, And that's
Yeah.
it. Nobody asks them, how are you doing?
Yes.
And
Yes.
between
And
45 and 55, they have the highest suicide rates.
yes, yes, it's really disturbing. And of course, a lot of the people that I end up working with, a lot of executives, share a similar feature with like first responders, for instance, or the veterans who think
Hmm.
that they have to hold everybody's pain and their own together. If you're a CEO or an executive, um, by virtue of what you do, you have to be somehow in isolation in some ways so that your employees don't see that you're falling apart or that something is not working. And that translates into, well, I managed today, I'm going to manage again tomorrow, until it just hits you in the face in the most inappropriate place or time, and it just becomes something that it's like a volcano. It waits and waits, and it erupts when you least expect it. And so I say we don't pay attention to prevention
Yeah.
as much as we respond to the problems, and there's such a value in prophylactic. And I think um, absolutely. And a lot of the times, people who think they have dealt with the pain of the past, but in reality, they've managed to sort of keep it at bay enough until they are in a relationship, or until some serious problem arises at work, or until they have their kids that they need to deal with, or so being able to process the pain from the past, or process something that you've been holding on to and haven't quite released from the past, I can help you with that very easily.
I love this. Nino Fincher, everyone, find her on LinkedIn. Thank you for being on the show. Nino, please come back soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to visiting with you again.